Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that is planning to destroy an animated town so he can put in a freeway. It's Niall Moore.
Hey, how you doing, Mark?
That's pretty that's dastardly. You created a dip, you're killing shoes, you are destroying public transportation, and you're putting in freeways.
Well, I'm just thinking about transportation, mass transit for the win.
You know what's funny? I haven't watched it's been a while since I watched this movie again. And then when the whole plan was that it was a freeway
Yeah, it's
to
basically a freeway with like gas stations and like basically rest stops and billboards. That was
basically
his
any
whole thing.
on and off ramp when you're driving on the highway, which I love. And it was interesting on the commentary. The writers, what Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman, were talking about how Spielberg was like, we need a plot. So they're like, okay, so they based their plot on an actual thing in California. And you've probably done this research too, where there was a red line and then they destroyed it because they wanted to put a freeway in. But it was like this big thing. So they actually based it in California history, this movie.
Yeah,
The,
and that kind of grounds it that it's not completely stupid. It is something that you could totally see happening where it's like, oh, because I've seen it happen in Dublin as well. Like there used to be trams in Dublin that kind of got done away with to support cars, and then about 20 years ago they brought back trams again, and they might just keep recycling the same things when they were like, actually, having streetcars is a good idea.
Reminds me of that movie that just came out, The Boys from County Hell. I don't know if you've heard about it, the Irish vampire movie about how they disrupt some vampire ruins because they're going to put a bypass in there, and then the vampires just
That
killing
sounds
people.
like something people in Ireland would protest about. Disrupting the vampire ruins, no bypasses.
That was big for you, wasn't it, growing up? Vampire ruins being disrupted, and you had to go battle them.
Something like that. They were definitely big on building bypasses. I'm not too sure about any vampire ruins.
Well, back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. All right, so I'm so glad that we did this because I worked on, I kind of had a refresher. I worked on an episode of Rotten Tomatoes Versus where we did Space Jam versus Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So I got to do a ton of research about it then, but then I didn't really do a full rewatch. I just included a ton of research. And so now going through it and just watching it frame for frame and listening to the commentaries, listen to every documentary I can find. I mean, this was a gnarly movie to make. What, 7 months of shooting, a year of
Well,
post
they
production.
they made what, like basically 2/3 movies almost in one. Like they
Yeah.
had to film essentially a full feature film, and then they had animators who basically had to animate a full feature film as well. And then ILM had to go away and basically composite the two of them together into this, what we ended up with today.
Yeah, adding shadows and I mean, what like you had all the puppeteers on the stage, like holding the guns and the octopus with its shaker. I mean, just such a oh man, this is man. Imagine being on a set. It would move. Okay, I have three questions for you, real quick. Bob Hoskins, should he have been nominated for an Academy Award for this movie?
Yeah, I think so. Like he was ridiculously believable that he was interacting with the character of Roger Rabbit. It's like, okay, Roger Rabbit is there, and you believe it. And he said he based his performance on watching his 3-year-old daughter doing imaginary play and basically really believing what she was playing. And he was just like, I kind of just watched her for inspiration and then kind of went with it and looked how she acted and looked how she pretended and then just gave it everything. But yeah, he was fantastic.
And just watching him and then watching him on the green screen, like when he finally goes to Toontown, and just that's all just on a stage, and just watching his reactions and his pantomime and the way he kept eye lines. Like this is, you know, yeah, I think he should have been nominated for an Academy Award. I really do. I mean, it is just wonderful. Now, second, the dip. How horrifying is that shoe scene? From a scale of one to
Man,
ten.
I remember that from growing up. It was just absolutely horrific. You'd watch like cartoons and stuff, and you'd watch Tom and Jerry like knock the absolute crap out of each other. But by the end, one of them's bandaged up, or the other one is like, just laughing, or they're sitting, in a pile or a heap together, and everyone's just like beat up. But you don't see Toons die. Like this was basically, you know, this guy's straight up murdering cartoons. He could just destroy any of them. And that's what makes him such a good villain. It's just like, oh, he's not even giving them a trial. He's just executing people for fun. This guy is bad news.
And it's basically the equivalent of okay, let's say in Die Hard, Alan Rickman walks into the set and he is in Nakatomi Plaza. He's playing Hans Gruber, and there's a kitten, and he just picks the kitten up and he rips the thing's head off and throws it out of a window. Like that's
That
kind of the equivalent. That is the equivalent of what happened here because
Yeah, it's a nothing character, with no. It's done. The shoe's done nothing except be knocked out of a box and basically be flopping around on the floor. And it's just like, oh, here's a perfect chance for me to just be barbaric and kill something.
and the thing's being cute too. It's just it's just on Doom's flag, just kind of being nice, and it gets murdered. And the interesting thing, Nancy Cartwright voiced the
Yeah,
shoe,
yeah, she did.
and then a year later she was on The Simpsons, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean that
And every year since then, basically.
she's so rich, she could just buy an island right now. Jeez Louise. But I mean oh gosh. So all right, so that's my second question. Third, did you think this movie holds up?
Oh yeah, like I'm watching it. I watched it probably finished up 10 minutes before I jumped on to talk to you. The reason it holds up is because of the work that they put in. Like we kind of touched on, a tiny bit already. The puppeteers being on set, having these physical objects, having to actually create the shots in a believable way, and having some really, really talented animators working on it as well, and being able to basically composite all of that together. I think without using CGI, because back then CGI obviously wasn't really a thing. It had been used for very, very limited kind
Mm-hmm.
of effects, but nothing large scale. If you look at say the likes of Space Jam, even like the '95 version, Michael Jordan, that doesn't really hold up that well.
No. Mm-mm.
Whereas you look at Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and because of how meticulous they were in crafting the effects and working, and 4 layers of effects that ILM put on each frame. There was the animated bit, there was the live action bit, there was like a shading shadows bit, and there was like
The
the
sequin
the
dress.
lighting, and basically just like compositing all of this together. It just makes it look. You don't get jarred out of it at any point. There's no where it's like, oh, that's obviously fake. Like from the moment you're watching it, it's just like, okay, yeah, this is a world where toons are interacting with humans. It looks
And
right.
I love that you said that too. And when listening to the commentaries, Zemeckis, and also the behind the scenes documentaries, Zemeckis said, "If it's not hard, why am I doing it?" So I think this movie had the perfect director, and then it had Dean Cundey, who had shot Halloween, The Thing, Escape from New York, Back to the Future, Big Trouble in Little China, Roadhouse. He would go on to do Jurassic Park. He was a big animation nut. And then you had Spielberg behind the scenes. You had like Joel Silver and like Frank Marshall. Like Joel Silver just acts as an actor, but like, yeah, Frank Marshall
Yeah,
popping up.
he was the director of the
Hmm.
animated short at the start, wasn't he?
I'll save you, baby. You had ILM, who just every time I learn more about ILM, the more impressed I am with them. We covered Death Becomes Her, and then I also covered a lot of Stephen Sommers movies, and ILM worked on his. And it seems like every time ILM and George Lucas, all the behind the scenes documentaries, whenever they get handed a show, they're like, "We've never done this before. This is impossible, but we're gonna do it." Like so, they don't have any of this existing tech ahead of time. They just have to come up with it and make it work. And what I love too is Zemeckis, like he could have shot flat plates and a shit scene and then made it easy for the animators, but the camera's
Yeah,
moving.
but he did not want to do it that way. It
No.
was, and that's kind of another reason why it holds up so well, because it's not like the likes of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang or Mary Poppins or whatever, where you've got these actors interacting with animated pieces, but it's very much contained and on like a just a flat background.
And no
Whereas
shadows.
here, the camera's moving. You've got pans. Like there's one scene where the camera kind of pulls back on Jessica and then pushes forward and takes her slightly out of focus and goes up to like look up at the window. And like they had to think about how they could make animation go out of focus to enable those camera movements. Like it's just ridiculously creative, the things they had to come up with. And it's just, every single thing I read or heard about this movie, it just made me like more interested in just hearing all about the little bits they did, because it just turned out so cool.
And you know what I love too is, I mean, when you this movie made 154 million, but when you inflate it for like when it's adjusted for inflation, it's 344 million dollars. And like, let me show you the run for this movie. So this movie came out late June and it ran through October in the theaters, but it opened to 11 million. Then the second weekend was 14 million. The third weekend was 11 million. The fourth weekend was 8.5 million. The fifth weekend, so it started at 1, then it was in the second place, third place, then it jumped back to first place with 9 million. And then it had 6.5 million, 5.8 million, 4.3 million, 3.6 million, 2.9 million, 4.4, 1.8 million, 2 million, 1.6 million, 1.5 million, 1.4 million, 1 million. I've researched movies from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and they haven't had this run. I mean, there were less VCRs, there were less, less on cable. You didn't have all the streaming options. But yeah, I mean, I've researched so many movies from the 80s, 90s, 70s that this is this is an epic run. I mean, this is one of those runs where, I mean, right now, with, after adjusted for inflation, let's see, it is the 215th highest grossing film domestically of all time. It's just one of those epic runs, which means the word of mouth was strong for this, because normally you very rarely have a fourth weekend that's almost as big as the first weekend. So people just kept coming to this. Like, the word of mouth must have been crazy. I didn't get to catch this when I was 7. Did you see this in the theater?
I don't think so. I remember it was my first audiobook that I can remember having. Like, my parents had bought me like this like companion book, and it came with a cassette tape, and it had it had Bob Hoskins and Charles Fleischer like recording their voices on it. So it'd be like reading some of the story, and then you'd have like Roger Rabbit's voice and stuff. I used to listen to it like going asleep, but I don't think I saw it in the theaters, or if I did, I don't really remember it. But I definitely saw it when I was quite young.
Man, that dip. And then his eyes coming out at the end. I mean, Christopher
Yeah.
Lloyd, he never blinks in this movie. And he's just such an evil villain. And then you have the weasels. I like that there were supposed to be 7 weasels originally, but then they just ran out of time and money, and they just made 5 of them, which kind
Yeah,
of
there
makes me...
was like a tiny little moment, which I think kind of paid homage to that, was when they were first introduced, and it was when they first introduced the thing about them dying from laughing, because Christopher Lloyd is like, stop laughing now or you'll die like your cousins, basically,
Oh my
which
gosh. Oh
something
no.
I hadn't picked up on before. Your cousin, maybe it was cousin hyenas, maybe.
Oh my gosh. And I love that their names are Smarty, Stupid, Wheezy, Greasy, and Psycho.
Yeah.
And they laugh themselves to death. Isn't it? Okay, Bob Hoskins, like, when I look at him, I kind of see this surly, serious guy, but then he's doing these steps around and he's being silly, and
But look
man,
at him, like, he
he's a
was in
tank.
this, he was in Hook, for
Yeah,
example,
that's
like where he was
true.
playing like a quite silly Smee.
So I guess he does like getting silly.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. So what else? What other moments do you love in this movie? Like, what other cool research did you pick up
So
on?
there's one gag that just cracks me up every time, even though I know it's coming, and that's the booby trap.
Oh
It just
gosh.
like it just gets me every single time. I'm just like, it's like he's reaching around, and I'm like, oh, I remember there's a gag here, and I'm like, is it a mouse trap? Is it? And then the bear trap comes out, and Hoskins just completely deadpan. It's like, oh, nice booby trap. I'm just like, oh, that is just,
And he
it's
says it
just
so
perfect.
earnestly, right? It's so earnest the way he says it. It's just such a flat delivery. I love his scotch on the rocks, and that's ice, not rocks.
And then they brought him a rock anyway.
Oh man. And then the cattle call.
Yeah.
Oh man. There's so many sight gags. This is such a visually rich movie. I mean, you get Dumbo
Well,
popping
I'd
up
say
and
you'd have to pause it almost, particularly in the scenes in Toontown. You'd nearly need to pause every frame to catch all of what's in there. I was kind of like looking at things, and there was like the police building had like a Yosemite Sam mustache, and was like looking to its right at the bar building, which was visibly drunk and swaying, and the police building was just kind of looking at the bar building, being like, "What the hell are you doing?"
oh my gosh, I never noticed that. That's hilarious. That's in
Yeah,
kind of
there's like loads of little like tiny sight gag. Like there's so much going on that you're just like, and animators, they're famous for slipping in little gags here and there,
they said they had to
which is
cut a
something
few
they had done.
frames. Yeah, like
Yeah,
Betty Boop, they had to cut a few frames.
there were a few risque um, frames that the animators tried to slip by, but they didn't end up in the final cut.
Oh, some eagle eye person caught it.
Yeah,
And I gotta say, Richard Williams, I mean, he won a Special Achievement Award for this movie, the animation direction. I mean, this guy, he made some work on this. I mean, it's just beautiful to look at. And then, but it's so cool how they gave him so much room for success too. I mean, they had, when the little Baby Herman was
yeah.
Baby Herman was smoking a cigar. That was just a real cigar and a robot arm.
Yeah, and they like built this like robot arm with servos so somebody could control it to make it look natural. It wasn't sufficient just that they could have it go up and down. They were like, no, this has to look natural, so we need to build this entire like servo rig that a guy can control the cigar so that it looks right.
You know what I love too? This would have been fun to work on because you can't give any excuses to Zemeckis or Frank Marshall or Steven Spielberg. This is one of those where it's going to work. You are going to make it work. And it would have been kind of neat to work on because, anything they kind of asked for, you sort of had to make work. Which I think, like, when they did the nightclub scene, they built the stage, 8 feet off the ground?
Yeah, so that the puppeteers could walk. They had room to like basically perform for the penguin waiters. Which is just one tiny little piece of the scene, but they had to build an entire set 6 feet off the ground just to accommodate how they were filming that.
And it's crazy. They said the Daffy and Donald scene was the hard. You saw this in the documentary. Like,
Yeah,
that was the hardest to film. And it's funny too that they both had to have the same amount of screen time. And I do love the scene where Roger Rabbit and Mickey Mouse, they had to have the exact same amount of screen time, and Mickey couldn't do anything evil, but Roger could.
oh,
Which,
with Bugs.
yeah, and Bugs. I'm sorry, not
Yeah,
Roger Rabbit. Oh yeah, with Bugs when Bugs Bunny hands him the spare tire. Oh jeez
yeah.
Louise. But just watching Donald and Daffy together and like talking about the speech impediment and then the Scotch on the rocks. I mean, what a you know what too I like this is 88 and so PG and PG-13 had already been created. But this is still just a PG movie. So for 88, this is with PG-13 being created, this is about as risque as they come, is it not?
There are a lot of innuendos, I would say, but they are, I think, cloaked enough so that they're, they got by the MPAA.
Yeah, I mean it must have, right? I mean, that's actually how they got around the Hays Code, like in the 30s, 40s, 50s, just innuendo. So yeah, I guess like the
Well,
stuff she
yeah,
kind of said, I'm gonna
I
go
was
home and bake
watching
you a carrot cake.
I was watching a documentary about that. It was just on Netflix about like movie Hollywood cliches, and there was a whole bit about the Hays Code and how they got around it. Train going into tunnel. What does that represent?
That's almost more creative, right? They're like, here's all the rules. Now find a way to get around these. That
Yeah.
makes me so happy. But yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. But I think this is kind of a, I can't say like, oh, these don't exist anymore. But I think types of these PG rated movies are good for kids. Like there's fun humor in there. I mean, adults want to go see it. It's kind of a 4 quadrant movie where, film snob will watch it, a kid will like it, an adult will like it, teenagers would probably enjoy it. Like they
But that's
really,
the thing, and that's where a lot of films fail these days, is by not having that broad appeal.
hmm
You know, just because something's PG, it's like fine, no swearing, no nudity. It doesn't mean it can't be entertaining to adults.
yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to, dumb it down and make it really childish. You can still have some really clever humor, and you can still have like, you know, really fun action bits, and you can have like cool effects and stuff. But it doesn't mean you have to oversimplify it and make it childish.
Absolutely. And I think, this is a little off topic, but I do think that National Treasure is a really solid example of a PG rated movie that was 4 quadrant because, kids go see it, you have adventure, then you have Nick Cage, and you get kind of a fun story, you get a treasure hunting thing. Like that was a huge blockbuster success. So I guess when you can make a PG movie that is also kind of like a 4 quadrant hit, I mean, you're gonna make money. And I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that's proof with Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, if you can keep your rating, PG basically, while appealing to, the broadest demographic possible, people are going to see it because, parents will actually enjoy taking their kids to see it. Teenagers can kind of go to it snobs will actually watch it and enjoy it for its technical merits or its whatever other pieces.
Absolutely. And so I mean, I guess for like the parents going into this, I mean, this is 88 when, like not far removed from a lot more noirs being released, that kind of film. Like what do you feel about the noir plot of this? Like this is a children's movie with a noir and
It's
murder mystery involving patty cake.
it's and they nail it as well. Like the whole tone of the noir side of it. It's straight out of 20s 30s pulp. It's just like you totally buy Valiant as this hardened PI who's kind of down on his luck. He's the archetype of this character, basically this trope. He's got his kind of estranged girlfriend slash sort of kind of sassy lady kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you've got like the barflies and stuff, and he's got like his old police connections, and he's just kind of working the case and kind of gets dragged into it against his will somewhat. And they nail it. And part of that is down to Alan Silvestri. You've got the scoring, like the way
Oh
it's
gosh,
scored.
it's
You
insane.
have like for the more kind of sedate bits, you've got like very kind of noir, kind of just loads of sax, loads of kind of like jazzy kind of numbers. And then when you go to the tunes, it all gets a little bit manic. The most interesting thing I found was that he didn't actually score anything for Jessica. He basically just had the musicians watch it and live jam based on their feelings. Like he basically had these jazz musicians in, and they're just like, okay, just play what you feel when you see this scene, and that's how they came up with the kind of motifs that were used for Jessica, which is
Oh
kind of
wow.
crazy.
And the sax goes so hard whenever she's on. I don't mean that as like a yeah,
Euphemism.
yeah, yeah. I don't mean it like that. Actually, I mean, yeah, tequila. It was almost like tequila sunrise-esque sax playing in there. But yeah, then
Yeah.
what's interesting, they had to blend the the seriousness of the noir and then the tune world, and then they kind of had to make it seamless. Not kind of, they had to make it seamless. This is, man, this is such a technical, man. This, yeah, no, I mean it's a classic though. So I guess what's nice about this movie is we're not talking about this as a cult classic. We're not talking about this as like a unseen gem or a critically loved movie that didn't do well at the box office. Like we're talking about this is a Stone Cold classic. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
this is like
nice.
a bona fide, like, it won 3 Oscars, I think.
Hmm.
And then there was that, special Oscar. I think it was nominated for 6, which for kind of an animated-ish movie. Like, I don't think it has quite enough animation to qualify for, best animated feature these days. I think you have to have over 75% animated, and I think it only had 55 minutes of its runtime animated, but it wouldn't have been far off. That would have been like the category I don't think existed back then, but that would have been an interesting one. Would this qualify to be best animated feature?
That's a great question. And you wonder about like all the VFX movies now, how heavy they are. Like when does that lean into animation as well? But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I love to. I think originally they thought like, yeah, like we'll only do like 14 minutes of animated, and then at the end when
yeah,
they asked Frank Marshall, he's like, yeah, we have 48 minutes, which is nuts. And imagine being the film editor on this, Arthur Schmidt. I mean, he won the Oscar and deservedly, but you know how much, man. So he had to put together the movie and know when to
but
stop
they
and
had
when
to
to,
put it in. Well, he had to put it together
and then
without any VFX and any animation because they couldn't change it once the animation was in. So they had to match the animation to what had already been cut. So he had to basically edit together this Invisible Man movie where it's like, okay, there's a rabbit there. I'm kind of cutting together what I've got from Bob Hoskins' performance and like Christopher Lloyd. And I know there's a rabbit here and I can hear the dialogue, but I don't, you don't have anything to work with. And you just trust the animators to do their job.
oh gosh, what a tough gig. And then what's awesome? They took each frame, blew it up, and then they made a picture of it for animators to draw over it.
Yeah.
Did you see the in the behind the scenes documentary? It's just the one guy sitting there doing one at
Yeah,
a
he's just
time.
there and he's just like doing one frame at a time. They reckon there was over 1 million drawings, I think, drawn for this movie.
Oh gosh, and I love the dude was I think it was Ken Ralston at ILM when he's talking about where like he's like so far we've done 500 VFX shots. That's more than Back to the Future, and he rambled off Romancing the Stone. He
Yeah, he
rambled
was
off
like
about five
several
movies.
Star Trek movies and I think Empire and
Yeah. Oh man,
yeah.
like it's such a flex mention, and then he was like, "We're not halfway there yet."
Yeah, I think
Just
they ended up over 1,000. Like, I think on one of the other ones I said they were talking probably to the same guy, and he was like, "Yeah, we did like 300 VFX for Jedi. This is already over 1,000."
and that makes me so happy that this movie's such a success, and it just lives on. Like its legacy does live on. I mean, I listened to everything on the 25th anniversary Blu-ray, which was stacked. It just I don't know, it makes me happy, and I just love a good noir story. It just makes me. Oh, also, I guess we haven't talked about something, and we got to talk about Roger Rabbit. I mean, what do you think about Fleischer's performance in this? What do you think about the character himself?
He fits, I think, is and this is something that Fleischer said himself. Is just like he could feel like Roger and how he should be, and he put like that kind of weird stuttery kind of you know inflection on.
Mm-hmm.
Zemeckis apparently loved it, so like that became the voice. But his performance,
Please.
but apparently he was, walking around like wearing a rabbit costume on set, and like, getting really, they would do like a take with him and Bob Hoskins where they would just kind of perform, and then he'd have to go to his like booth, and then he would have to do the performance again from the booth basically, and Bob Hoskins would have to act essentially to the green screen as it were, or to the like empty
Yeah,
scene.
he was so in character. And then he'd go to lunch, and people would see him and be like, "Man, that movie's gonna be terrible. You see that rabbit?" It makes me
Yeah,
so.
the
But
rabbit picture.
that had to have helped Hoskins, though. Actually, that had to have helped everybody on set, seeing how committed he was. Uh, just sometimes when you hear actors talking about being on VFX heavy films, like, yeah, I was just looking at a tennis ball, and I've seen tennis balls on set before. So yeah, I was looking at a tennis ball, I was getting nothing back. But it
Well,
had to have been.
that's what you see on like on the behind the scenes of almost every movie made in the last 15 years that's got a VFX character. The tennis ball has become the go-to kind of thing
Yeah.
for your eyeline. It's like basically this tennis ball is your co-star. Get to know him beforehand. Maybe hit him up against a wall a couple of times, get a feel for him.
Go play. Oh man, that's
You
that.
might actually get a better performance out of them if you actually played with the tennis ball a little bit before, working with it. At least you got the connection.
Do a chemistry test with various tennis balls.
Be like, I kind of like this one. It really gives an edge to my serve. This one's a little bit soft. It's not getting quite the kick off the backhand.
Then you two become best friends. It's like Tom
Yeah,
Hanks and Wilson. And I guess that's what I like about Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn has Sean Gunn on set as Rocket, and then on Suicide Squad, the actor who played Stallone voiced King Shark, but there's a guy on set playing King Shark in the costume, like in the mocap. And so, I mean, the technology's moved to where they can do that, but I bet it was just great for Hoskins. Like Hoskins was kind of making fun. You know what I love? One of my favorite bits from the behind the scenes documentaries is when Hoskins, I guess, was saying something to Fleischer. He's like, "Why are you wearing the bunny suit?" And I guess Fleischer's like, "Have I talked about how you act?" He's like, "Fair enough." That's right. That's cool. I dig it. It's like here's Fleischer, and I really, if y'all haven't watched these behind the scenes documentaries, these voice actors are just giving it everything they have on set, and you can see the crew members around them just smiling and just watching them go for it. And just, I guess, Hoskins, they had the life size doll that they had. They would kind of shoot with that to give an idea, and then set eye lines and kind of all the movement. But yeah, Hoskins, he said he loved having him around, just belting that out in character at all moments. Man, what a great voice too. I mean, that's a what's interesting. A lot of people say that Roger Rabbit annoyed people, but I don't think he ever annoys me in this movie at all.
no, he's got a distinctive voice, but that's what you want from a cartoon character. You want to immediately be able to pick out, it's like, that's Bugs Bunny. And, when you hear like Mel Blanc, it's like, okay, that's Bugs Bunny. That's Daffy Duck. Like they got all of the official voice actors for all of these characters as well. So it wasn't just, oh, look, there's Mickey Mouse and there's Bugs Bunny. It's like those are the characters, and they're voiced by the guys who voice the characters. It gave it a sense of like, okay, that's definitely Bugs Bunny, that's definitely Mickey Mouse, that's totally Porky Pig at the end, and then you totally believe it's like, okay, Baby Herman, I guess he fits in there perfectly, and then you've got Roger Rabbit, and it's like, oh yeah, of course, Roger Rabbit, he's been a tune for years. Yeah, I've definitely watched loads of his cartoons growing up.
Yeah. And then just, yeah, the voices added so much to it. And I like the behind the scenes, just watching what Billy West doing a lot of the scenes and what D. Bradley Baker as Daffy Duck, Tasmanian Devil. Um, no, wait, no, I'm looking at, is that Space Jam?
D. Bradley Baker? Yeah, that must be
No,
Space Jam.
you know what's funny? I have a list here of, I have a list here of Space Jam and Who Framed Roger Rabbit from the notes I did. And I was reading that. I was like, I didn't know Wayne Knight was a voice on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. No, but I'm sorry. Having like Lou Hirsch on there, having just like everybody you said, having him on there, just it's perfect.
They had the original voice of Betty Boop on there, doing Betty Boop, which is something very obscure. Like she was only a character for 5 years, but and then retired. But yeah, they got the voice actor in to do it.
I mean, this was the most expensive movie ever made at the time, which is nuts. I guess it got up to 70 million, and then I guess when that's inflated, it's 150 million, which Rambo 3 was the prior most expensive film. But you can easily see why this is the most expensive movie at the time because of just the length that you had to do it. I mean,
Well,
this
just
is like
pure
2 years.
errors.
Yeah, exactly. So like even the production itself probably wasn't the most expensive. It was just a year of post production with hundreds of artists working around the clock. Just
And
money.
they had to, they had the his name escapes me, the animation director. He was there like live sketching whatever Zemeckis was telling him. Basically they were going through the edited footage, and Zemeckis is like, okay, what's happening now is he's got the rabbit and he's like stuffing him down his shirt and kind of in a toony way, and he's there like doing like almost like a court sketch of what kind of Zemeckis wants that he can then take to the animators and be like, okay, I think this is kind of what we're going for. And then they would go away for 12 weeks or 14 weeks, as Bob Zemeckis said, and then you might get to see something.
That's a lot of. They put like I know Spielberg was behind it. I know Frank Marshall was behind it, but Disney put a lot of faith in Zemeckis because they're not making money on this movie for 2.5 years. This is not a quick
But
turnaround.
if you
Well, I guess.
look at where Zemeckis was in his career at that point, like this isn't pre Back to the Future. This is post Back to the Future Zemeckis. Like he's absolutely killed it, and he's probably in pre-production for Back to the Futures 2 and 3, which I'd say the studios were fairly confident that, okay, these are going to be massive tentpoles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great
So,
point. He had heat.
this
He had
kind
a
of
lot of
becomes,
heat.
a passion project where, he's proven track record of success, with Romancing the Stone, with Back to the Future, and now he's kind of making this movie with the backing of Spielberg, who, also was, on
Pretty big.
a hot streak at that point.
Yeah.
So it had a lot of weight behind it.
Yeah, and I guess Michael Eisner, he saw it through. He saw the vision, gave them as much money as they wanted. Oh gosh, I
Yeah,
love it. Oh, that's so cool. Hey, so how about this? Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I kind of want to talk about our favorite moments from the movie and kind of dive into the plot a little bit more.
yeah,
How's that sound?
sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And did you put some cream in your coffee, or you're gonna have to drink it black now? It's just that's such a zippy dialogue. I love that line. She's a cream in my coffee. Wait, you're gonna have to drink it black now, son. And the patty cake. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that scene. Just patty cake. This makes me so happy. I don't know. What a weird movie. Like Patty. Yeah, I didn't get that when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I definitely, that just kind of went way over my head. I'm just like, well, is patty cake? Oh, I guess it's a game, and then Roger's upset because I don't know.
And Goofy too. Goofy has quite the backstory in this movie. So there's a paper clipping that says that Goofy is cleared of spy charges, and then Jessica Rabbit
Yeah,
later
so
says,
I think Valiant and Valiant were, so Eddie and Teddy, as they're named, they were involved in like clearing Goofy, most likely, which is why the press clipping was hanging around their office.
"Oh, I love it." And then also too, when Jessica Rabbit says, like, "You're even better than Goofy." I'm like, wait,
Yeah,
what?
what has happened there?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Roger does make an offhand thing. It's like nobody takes a ton of bricks to the head like Goofy, which kind of foreshadows what happens to him at the end.
He gets leveled. Also, too, when Doom gets smashed or rolled by the I can't even think of the name of it, whatever that
It
thing
was
is
a
called right now.
steamroller.
Yeah, the steamroller right now, or steamroller, and then he just gets up flat. That scarred me as a kid too. Like, what?
Yeah,
He's a
like
toon?
the whole thing about Doom, like he and the thing is they considered getting Tim Curry to play him, but apparently Tim Curry was even more scary. And
Oh,
they were just like, okay, no, we can't go that far. Let's just get Christopher Lloyd. And, Christopher Lloyd is creepy enough in the role. But apparently Tim Curry was just terrifying.
that's really smart though, because you can't have an unknown terrifying person. Because I remember watching Ernest Scared Stupid in '91, and I remember that troll destroying my life. I just hunted children day or night, had no pattern, would hid under beds, hid on beds, get you in public, and it scared the daylights out of me. And I guess now imagining watching Tim Curry when I was young, I probably didn't know who he was. Maybe I knew him from like Home Alone 2, but seeing this character who I didn't know, like I knew who Christopher Lloyd was when I
Yeah,
watched
because he's
this.
Doc Brown, right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
So like,
I'd seen Back to the Future before I'd seen this, and I was like, oh, that's Doc Brown. It's like, oh, is he the baddie? Oh, I guess,
that's a
you have like a little bit of an affinity towards him. It's like, oh,
that's smart. I didn't even know about Tim Curry because yeah, you can't have someone too scary. This is still a kids movie, so you got to have Lloyd on there. But it's interesting how he based himself after a vulture, and they wanted to have a vulture on his shoulder, but it was just too expensive to animate a vulture on him at all times.
yeah, well, I guess if they had to put it in every single frame he's on screen, it adds up.
Yeah, and I guess the nose was a prosthetic. His teeth were like he spent a lot of time just
But
in
apparently he
makeup.
figured out the plot from the first page of the script.
Oh
Just
yeah,
from the screen direction, it was basically character does not blink, and he's like, "I'm totally a toon, aren't I?" And they were like, "Yes, you're right."
yeah. He just nailed it. I think he got the character perfectly too because it's still kind of camp. Like he doesn't play it too seriously, but it's still really scary. I mean, for kids,
No, but he's menacing.
yeah.
He's not. You know, he doesn't go too far, but he's still menacing. In that kind of quiet, kind of. The costume helps. He's basically dressed like a member of the Gestapo, and then he's got those kind of like evil kind of vibes going on. But there is a silliness and there's almost a grace to his. Like one of my favorite scenes is where they're fighting in the warehouse at the end, and Eddie pulls out a magnet, and Judge Doom's kind of he's like holding on to his sword for a bit, and then he just kind of gives in and just kind of does this glide where the sword is kind of pulling him towards Eddie. I'm just like, oh my god, that is just it's just a really interesting way to go. Instead of the sword getting pulled off him or him doing something else, it's just like I'm just gonna glide with my sword.
Oh, that's cool. He's really good in this movie. He is just what a perfect villain. And then you got Hoskins, and you know what I was thinking about too. Growing up, the Amblin movies that like I watched, I think they were kind of a rite of passage for me as a kid. Like Gremlins, Goonies, Back to the Future, or the Spielberg produced movies. This, like these. I don't know. I felt. Did you have that same experience? Like Goonies, you get out, like you go hunt for treasure. You like get
See,
out and you go do
Goonies, I
things.
don't think I ever saw until I was older.
Oh, okay.
But definitely Gremlins, E.T., Back to the Future, this, all of those were kind of, my staple when I was younger and growing up.
I mean, yeah, I just wanted to watch. Like when I watch Goonies, I just wanted to go get on my bike and ride around and hunt for treasure. I never found it in Florida, but I don't
Sure, there
know.
should be lots of buried treasure in Florida. You just have to, swim away from the gators.
That's true. The Buccaneers. Let's hope a crawl scenario doesn't help hit me while I'm hunting for treasure. I'm,
Yeah,
there were a lot of conquistadors. I'm sure there's some Spanish gold.
a
Let's
few
just go.
galleons here or there.
All right, you need to come down here and we'll go on a mission. I'm sure our wives will love that. Driving around Florida
Yeah,
hunting for gold.
go in one of those airboat kind of things.
Oh, I've done that. Those are fun. Give you the full Florida experience. Take you to Disney.
Oh yeah.
Take you to the Keys. There we go. But yeah, no, I mean, let's see. What else have we got in this movie? Anything else? Any other cool research that you found? Like, I kind of dig how they borrow from what Walt Disney's animation, the kind of like the Snow White kind of like there's some hyper realism to it. They look believable. But then you also had the Tex Avery, which was kind of larger than life, a lot of pratfalls, a lot of violence, and then Warner Brothers, which was more cartoon like, and people just got plastered and no, like not drunk, but they just got smashed, like Roadrunner and all that. And then they took
Yeah,
all their influences and combined them into one, which is pretty cool.
and you can definitely see the influences. Like, for example, when Eddie first goes into Toontown, he's like driving in his car, and then you've just got like this kind of almost Disneyfied landscape where everyone's singing and happy, and then all of a sudden he crashes, and you're in like this grimy Toontown, which is much, with Acme stuff everywhere, and all of a sudden you're in almost Warner Brothers world,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get kind of a combination of the two, where Mickey Mouse is saying, "Oh yeah, Eddie, are you gonna be okay? Do you have a parachute?" And then Bugs is like, "Here you go."
I read they got them for $5,000 each, the Warner Brothers characters, which is
That's
nuts.
crazy. Like, I'd say, I dread to think how much, if you were trying to make this movie today, how much you'd have to pay for the rights for these characters.
I mean, like Led Zeppelin songs cost $1 million. So right now, if you want to put one of them in it, I think it's just smart. The latest Space Jam, they just took Warner Brothers characters. I think it was Warner Brothers. Yeah, they just
Yeah,
took
yeah.
characters from
Space Jam
everything.
is.
Yeah, they just took characters from everything they owned and put them in there, which I think is probably the smartest option as far as budgets go. Because if you're trying to get Disney, that won't happen
Well,
now.
the thing
That
is,
won't happen now.
Disney could do that by themselves now. They could just have, oh, we own
If
Marvel, so here's Spider-Man, and
well, look at Free Guy.
oh yeah, Free Guy. That's an awesome movie. I really like that.
Oh, it's so good. What a crowd pleaser, right? But I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't seen it, but they definitely, I mean, Disney definitely goes into its bench for that
Yeah,
movie.
Free Guy is great. I think, it's a bit off topic. They could have gone further, I think, with some of the things. I think they could have gone a little bit deeper into the lore and like a little bit deeper. But I just loved how silly it was, and just like how there were like little nods. And you got Taika Waititi, who is just always a delight.
Here's some Albuquerque boiled turkey. I really like Ryan Reynolds when he's not being just sarcastic the whole time. I like him being super earnest in this movie. This is probably
Yeah,
the voices, those are probably my favorite performances of his because sometimes he can revert to just super sarcastic Reynolds, but I like it when
yeah.
he tries because he's very likable in this movie. And then you got Jodie Comer, Joe Keery, Taika Waititi talking about
She's
Albuquerque
awesome.
boiled turkey,
Have you heard her doing accents? She's like a chameleon.
Killing
I
Eve.
saw, yeah, there was like a clip of her on like a British talk show or something, and she slipped into about 6 or 7 different accents, just like bang, 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 bang. It's incredible.
She's a beast. And The Last Duel, I love that movie. I thought she crushed it.
I haven't watched that one yet. It's on my to-do list.
It's really, I just think people didn't like it because it kind of makes you think, and then you have to think about the themes and what you're being presented. And I just don't think people like that. That's my thought, at least. We're going off topic, but still, we're talking about all good movies, just like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, but yeah, I mean, bringing these things in for $5,000, and I love what you said too. Yeah, Toontown does become a bit of a nightmare. It's not all Disney-fied. It gets like, and then that lady starts chasing him around, and then he falls out of the building. I mean, what a I,
And my favorite bit about that is he's falling out the building, and his hat gets left behind, and then he has to like reach up, grab his hat to make sure that he's got his hat on when he's falling. Like that is just straight out of a cartoon.
oh, I love it. And then just Hoskins too. He was just on a rig being held horizontal. You know what's interesting for that shot? They built an extra 60 feet of dolly track and just pulled all the way back to get that shot of him because he was just laying horizontally and they moved the camera away from him. That's
Well, if it
nuts.
works, right?
Yeah, but that's what I love. Like, imagine being on this set in a pretty cool role. I just think the amount of creativity that you would experience while working on this. I mean, just
I
for
think
that
it's got to
shot.
be one of those there are no stupid ideas kind of places where it's like, okay, we've got this crazy thing we need to do. does anyone have any crazy idea how we could do this? And then, you just spitball absolutely anything you can think of until something sticks.
No, yeah, and the writer said they did that too. So Spielberg, when Spielberg was saying something about what was the thing about not the proctologist? Remember when Roger was like, yeah, my uncle had that. It was the not a proctologist thing, not an enema, but he was talking about his uncle got tested for something. But that was just the writers one day. Spielberg's
Yeah.
like, we need to make this. This is boring if they just talk about this. Like what is like this is if we just talk about this, it's gonna be boring. So what can we do? And then the guys were like, oh, okay, let's just talk about doing a colonoscopy.
Uh,
And then they're like, yeah, my uncle had that. And they're like, no. And then Spielberg goes, yes, let's do it. So they just threw out stupid, like not stupid stuff, of course, but they just threw out things, and then people are like, yes. But you know what? I think you can do that when they brought in who they brought in. I mean, if you look at Dean Cundey, if you look at all the talent in this film, when one of them throws out a dumb idea, it's going to be pretty smart.
yeah, it's probably something that, wouldn't fly in every environment, and you might not get to try because, it might take 6 weeks to set up the shot, and it might take, however much money to rig it. But in this, particularly in this environment where, they are doing something crazy, I think they just got to do it.
Oh gosh, just figuring it out like that. I love listening to the commentaries on Gremlins. I loved listening to like when we did Back to the Future. I read a book for that movie, but I just
Yeah,
love how.
I read the same book. It's
And we probably
fascinating.
talked about 3 pages of it, but I do
Yeah.
love that. I like reading about these really groundbreaking films, whether it's Jurassic Park or basically anything by Cameron. When you read about, I love reading about Robert Rodriguez and how he made El Mariachi, and Kevin Smith how he made Clerks. I just think it's almost. I don't think I don't have $150 million and I'm not backed by Disney, but just hearing the workarounds of how they made putting the stages off the ground, or building an extra 60 feet of dolly track, or just building a rig that has a
Well,
suction cup to
look at
smash plates.
Lord of the Rings, like just using forced perspective everywhere to get like the, you know, Gandalf big and the Hobbit small, like little just camera tricks like that don't really cost anything, but they're just good craft.
Exactly. That's a great word. Good craft. And yeah, I think this movie just had good craft all over it, which doesn't sound great, but it, I don't know. It's just such an exciting movie. And it's funny. I just kept diving into more documentaries about this movie because there's so much out there. You keep picking movies that I kind of like that require a lot of research, but I feel like I've learned a lot while looking into them. It's pretty neat.
I seem to just. Is this our third Zemeckis film at this point that we've
Yeah.
discussed? We seem to talk quite a bit about Zemeckis.
Death Becomes Her,
Um,
Back to the
Back to
Future,
the
and now
Future in
this.
this.
Yeah. I've also covered used cars. I don't think I've done too much other Zemeckis movies, which I love used cars.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've seen that one.
You got good old Kurt Russell in his Zemeckis
Oh,
movie.
nice.
Yeah, oh man, it's worth watching. It's a lot of fun if you haven't watched it. I wouldn't say that it's. I mean, it doesn't push the boundaries of cinema, but it's good enough to. I mean, actually, what are your favorite Zemeckis movies? We've covered 3. I mean, what like? Do you like a lot of his recent stuff? Like, do you like his Polar Express? Do you like
Polar
stuff like
Express
that?
is a bit
Beowulf?
weird. Beowulf. No, I think the ones that would be my favorite. Back to the Future, obviously, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. I would put this one up there because I've got a big old soft spot for this movie. I would say Forrest Gump. Enjoy that one.
What Lies
Um,
Beneath is
not.
is nice and wicked. I like that movie.
Um, I quite enjoyed Romancing the Stone. That's that's a good like kind of adventure movie. Kind of in the mold of. It's almost like not quite Indiana Jones, but Indiana Jones-ish. Like you've got kind of this kind of period adventure almost.
Hmm. Rakish hero, going on and
Yeah.
hunting for treasure. Just give me any of those movies and I'll watch them. I'll watch any treasure movie. I haven't watched Uncharted yet, but give me any of those.
I've heard mixed things about Uncharted. I don't think I can touch it because if I want my Uncharted fix, I'll just turn on the PlayStation and just play it.
I'll rent it. I heard it's fine. And so when I hear a
Yeah,
movie's fine, so like I know like people you know what's interesting? I've heard nobody be like it's awesome, and I've heard no one say it sucks. So then I just know I'm gonna rent it, unless I have to write
yeah.
a
I
review
I
for it,
think
of course.
I will. I will wait for it to turn up on whichever streaming platform that I pay for that it turns up on.
I do feel kind of I don't feel bad for Zemeckis, but I mean if you look at his recent run, he '04 he did Polar Express, '07 he did Beowulf, and then he did Christmas Carol. He got into the mocap world there for about 5
Yeah, and
years.
then he's just done Witches, which wasn't very well
Mm.
reviewed. I haven't actually watched that.
And he had Flight in 2012, but I mean he did The Walk,
That
which was
was Flight was okay, with a little uninspired. Like there's nothing. I think what I like about early Zemeckis is how groundbreaking everything was.
oh yeah.
You know, like looking at Back to the Future, looking at looking at Death Becomes Her. Even going as far as Forrest Gump, like how the visual effects were done there, where they make it look like Gary Sinise has no legs, for example. Some of the VFX in there and like the techniques they used to splice historical footage with Tom Hanks together. Like there was some, for a kind of story-driven movie, there was actually quite a lot of VFX going on in the background in that movie, and that's kind of where he peaked. And since then, as technology's moved on, there's less room for this innovation, and it's more just playing with tools that perhaps other filmmakers are using better or
Absolutely.
differently.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, yeah, he just, I don't know. He fell, I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he ever conquered Christmas Carol, Beowulf, or Polar Express. So, but he was on a run before he did that too. He did Contact, What Lies Beneath, and
I
Castaway.
like Contact.
Oh,
Contact
Contact's
is
legit.
underrated.
For sure. And then he got moved into that. And then I guess lately The Walk. I mean, just go watch a documentary. It's so much better. And then he did Allied, Welcome to Marlin, and The Witches. So I'd love for him to get a bounce back, but I don't know. I think he's done it's hard to say he's done enough, but I'll keep watching his movies. But he had such a run. I mean, I do appreciate him though because this is a guy I think who really, like you said with Forrest Gump and with Death Becomes Her and with Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he went out of his way to push the boundaries of filmmaking, and I think filmmaking was better for it. So, I mean, you're right. I loved how he blended in Forrest Gump the VFX, but it never felt like VFX. It felt very like Mad Max Fury Road, like they've just put mountains in, but you don't really notice
Yeah.
that those are visual effects because they just look like mountains. I think he
Yeah, and you're just watching the road action, which is all insane.
Oh, crazy. And that won the Movies, Films, and Flicks Action Movie Tournament, by the way. It defeated the
Did it?
Raid 2. I
I
voted Raid 2,
Yeah,
but
I saw that movie in 4D at a theater in Korea, and it was just an amazing ride. It's like the seats are moving, and there's like water spraying up at you, and there's wind blowing through, and you're just like, oh my god, this is amazing.
you did Mad Max Fury Road like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
it
that
was
sounds great.
insane.
Have you watched the Raid 2?
I haven't.
You need to. Go back to Korea and watch it in 4K. Pay a theater. Or I guess you could do that in London. Is there 4K in London? Or not 4K? Is there like 4D in London?
I'm not sure. I think there might be one in central London somewhere.
How
I
hygienic is
think
that?
that's kind of gone by the way of
The
you don't
Buffalo?
really hear much about 3D anymore these days.
Good old Cameron releases Avatar. Everyone tries to do it, realizes they're not Cameron, and then
Yeah,
they just ditch it. I
yeah.
do think Resident Evil 4 did a good job with 3D because they used James Cameron's rig on that movie. So it looks cool. I'm just putting
That'll
that
do
out
it.
there. I'm
Is
just putting it out.
Cameron using 3D for the Avatar sequels?
That's a great question. I mean, he's got to, right? Because
Yeah, you would think so.
it's depending
He's
on it's
probably revolutionized the tech now,
yeah.
and it's probably just it'll blow everyone away again. It's like, oh my god, you'll go to the cinema. It's like, oh, we've had to install these brand new holographic projectors to fully immerse you in James Cameron's Avatar 2, and all of a sudden you're just there.
We contracted Jake Gyllenhaal from Spider-Man: Far From Home and his
Yeah,
drones to give you a full-on experience. But I guess those Avatar movies depend on immersion in the world,
yeah,
so they would have to be 3D. And also too, there's something I guess we'll finish up a little bit, but there's something about Who Framed Roger Rabbit where there's nothing in it that takes you out of it. When I watch
No.
Space Jam sometimes, I do get taken out of some of the moments. I mean, I still love it. It's a great soundtrack. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit is just so seamless. And it's so, you do get immersed in that world. You do believe that, these weasels have guns, which makes me so happy.
Because there are, you can physically see the guns in the environment. It's not been digitally inserted. It's not, the gun is there. All you have to believe is that the weasel is holding it, and that's where the animators have done a fantastic job in making it look like that.
Oh, that's so cool. All right, so how about this? Before we get out of here, let's do to help promote this episode. Let's do a quick 1988 draft. So we'll draft movies from 1988. How's that sound? Before we get out of here.
Sounds good.
All right. So since you're the guest, I will let you go first.
Well, I know on movies, films, flicks, there's 8 years of cinema tournament ongoing.
Wait, what year did you
luck
pick?
would have it, 1988 was my year. So I'm quite a fan of many of the movies from this year. I think for my number one, I got to go with one of my other all-time favorite movies, which you've already mentioned earlier in this podcast, is Die Hard.
I already wrote it.
The ultimate action movie. You've got basically, every subsequent movie for 5-6 years became Die Hard in a whatever. It's like Speed. Oh, it's Die Hard on a bus. Oh, Beverly Hills Cop 3. It's Die Hard in the theme park. You've got this basically everything has to be Die Hard, and I just love it. Like, I rewatch it all the time. Alan Rickman is amazing in it, and Bruce Willis. It was back when Bruce Willis actually cared.
Yep, he did care back then, didn't he? I just watched a movie called Gasoline Alley with him in it. Oof, yeah. I don't know what's going on with him, so I don't know if I want to talk too much about it, because he could barely say one line at a time. I'm going to take Willow. That's my first pick.
Oh, Willow's a good one.
Yeah, I got to go Willow. I mean, I'm going to lose already, but I'm taking Willow. So,
Willow's a good one.
I mean, listen, this is another movie I grew up with, and it's another PG-rated movie. I mean, Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer in that movie is magnetic. The villain with his mask. I mean, the witch fight at the end was so brutal and dark and turned everyone into pigs. Burnt in my memory. Beautiful movie. So yeah, that'll be my first pick. What's your second?
I think my second, I'm going for another one from my list that I chose. Fish Called Wanda.
Oh my
gosh! It's just such a silly, funny film. And you've got like John Cleese, you've got Jamie Lee Curtis,
Oscar-winning Kevin Kline.
It is just so well acted. It is just so funny. I could watch that again and again and again. It's great.
Perfection. I'm gonna take They Live. Greatest fight scene of all time.
Nice.
Keith David, Roddy Piper, making you wear glasses. Free Guy, not ripped off, paid homage to They Live for sure. So yeah, They Live. That's my second pick. So you have Die Hard and Fish Called Wanda, Oscar-winning movie, a comedy.
So many choices. I'm kind of trying to pick something a little bit more obscure. I'm going to go for.
Let me guess before you pick it.
Okay.
Heathers.
No,
Oh,
I wasn't leaning that way. I'm going more along the old, the biggest action movie star in the world at the time, Mr. Schwarzenegger, with Danny DeVito, in Twins.
Oh man, such a good movie.
Which, it's one of those delightfully silly premises that, just wouldn't get made these days. But back then it's like, oh yeah, it totally makes sense that Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger can be twins. Let's make a movie about it.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love that movie's funny, and Schwarzenegger's really good in it. So is DeVito. Good pick.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do Coming to America.
Well,
huge movie, great performances by Eddie Murphy. I mean, this was just gigantic movie, coming off the heels of Beverly Hills Cop, the gigantic Beverly Hills Cop. He had movies in between, but one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. So I'm taking Coming to America. Got to do that. What's your fourth pick?
I gotta go for Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice.
Oh, that's strong. Some good Tim Burton.
Which, yeah, that again, it's just like one of those movies that, I think the effects haven't really aged as well as, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, for example, but it still kind of holds up, and it's still just really, really funny.
I love it. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna take Heathers. Why not? Let's go Heathers. People still talk about it today. I mean, it's a gnarly movie. Whenever something like that Heathers comes out, they're like, "Oh, it's like Heathers." So I feel like it's remained in the conversation since '88. So gotta include it. Gotta do it. Heathers, my fourth pick. What are you closing with? And
And
you can
then the
take Who Framed
last
Roger
one,
Rabbit.
I know I can, but I'm like, do I need to? So just kind of trying to pick out. There's an interesting one. My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh, evil. So I'll take Akira then.
Oh, yeah, Akira's a good one.
Yeah, because I mean those are both huge. I mean Totoro, I
Yeah.
still buy Totoro stuff. I love Totoro and Akira, one of the best like trend-setting action animated films ever made.
Inspired The Matrix partly.
Yep.
It's was remade. I didn't actually see the live action remake, but
We close strong. You have Die Hard, Fish Called Wanda, Twins, Beetlejuice, My Neighbor Totoro. I have Willow, They Live, Coming to America, Heathers, and Akira. I'm gonna lose, but I love my
pretty
squad.
strong squads.
This is 88 was stacked.
Oh yeah.
You narrowing it down to 5 must have been a nightmare.
I can't remember what I even had. I had Roger Rabbit. Can't remember what else I picked, but yeah,
Die Hard.
Yeah, there was Die Hard and Roger Rabbit, and then
Everything
I
else I'll just
struggled to narrow it down any further.
So you did do a good job spreading it out, though. You spread the love. It was good. This was cool. But yeah, hey, well, dude, thank you so much for suggesting this movie. Thank you for I got to research about this. Now I know everything about it. I absolutely adore this film. So another great pick from you, Niall. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I also enjoyed researching and watching this again.
And this time we got to talk about some of the research. Normally I'm all over the place, so I made sure we got to spend some time talking about the research in here because it's so dense. But no, I dig it. This was more manageable for me than Back to the Future. Back to the Future, there's so much out there about it. Documentaries and books.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's like, you need a minute at a time to talk about that. But no, this was cool. I'm glad we fixed this in. So thank you for joining me, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Niall Moore, this is Movie Sons of Flicks. We'll see you next week.